Hello everyone, welcome to session 4. Today we'll talk about domain 3, which is security access control. Agenda, we'll talk about domain 3, which is access control concepts. Then we'll talk about weightage. In between, we'll include some of the multiple choice questions. Weightage, as you could see, access control concepts holds 22% weightage in the exam. So you may expect 22 questions from access control concepts. The overall time is 120 minutes, 100 questions. So that still remains 1.2 minutes you can take for a single question. If you take more time, you may end up with losing time for other questions. Access control concepts broadly classified into two types: logical access controls or technical access controls and physical access controls. Logical access controls are the controls whenever you see inside application, software, endpoint, laptop, mobile phone. These all fall under logical or technical access controls. Physical access control is office premises, facility, outside, in the entrance or security for physical location. That fall under physical access controls. So before go to access control concepts, you must understand what is subject, what is object, what is access. Subject is the one requesting the access. This could be users, computer, or program, or a process. For example, as a user, I wanted to access gmail.com. Then the user is the subject, gmail.com is the object, and the moment you are authenticating, you are getting necessary permission to access the Gmail is the access. If you take anything in real time, if someone is trying to access a door or access office premises, then these three concepts applicable. The subject is the one who is initiating the request to access. Object is the target, what resource we are going to access. Then access is set of rights the subject is having. For an example, when you access office premises, you are going to office. The office entrance, you have a security guard or you have a automatic door system. You are showing your ID card or badge, then door will open, then you are entering. In this scenario, you are the subject. You are going to office. Office is the target, which is object. The set of permission you have in the door access is the access. So subject can be user, process, program, or it could be anything, the one requesting the access. So subject is an entity that is capable of accessing an object. Object is an entity or resource that is accessed by a subject. Hope that is clear. Let's move on. I would like you to understand these three concepts primarily. So based on these three concepts, you will see multiple other elements in the lesson. So make sure you understand subject, object, and access, these three terminologies clearly. Next, authorized and unauthorized personnel. When you are the right person to access the resource, you are authorized to access. For example, as a student, you have access to your college. Because you are the student, you joined the course, the college given the access to the college, you are entering, you are authorized to enter, you are permitted to enter into college premises. If any outsider trying to enter into your classroom, they are not authorized, right? If they somehow entered, then the security system is not in place in the college or a protected area. So authorized is simple, the person who has rights to access that specific resource or location. Now, unauthorized person is someone who doesn't have rights to access. So unauthorized access is when a subject gets access to a resource they are not authorized for. For example, you are trying to access gmail.com. The moment you entered user ID and password, you end up with loading with someone else's Gmail account, then you are unauthorized to access, right? Then there is a problem with Gmail. Same goes to any application or any security control you are developing. As a security professional, when you develop a feature, when authentication is validated, you need to make sure the right set of permissions are applied to that user. Unauthorized entries are restricted. If a user successfully logged in, make sure the user is accessing the right content. The same way, it may go like in real time. Let's say there is a HR application, which is payroll application. That application every month deliver you a pay slip, the salary slip to all the employees. All the employees has rights to access their own pay slip. They shouldn't see others' pay slip. Others' monthly salary set confidential information because others shouldn't know. Somehow you got access to that others' pay slip. The moment you log into your pay slip portal, you are seeing others' pay slip. Then what does that mean? You are not right to access that data, but somehow the application granted you access because you are unauthorized to access the data, but you somehow got the access. So authorized takes place when authorized user request and is granted access to an object. Unauthorized access is when a subject gets access to a resource they are not authorized for. Need to know is basic premise of access control. Access to a resource should only be granted to a user who has legitimate need to know. The legitimate need to know is the subject rights. When you are a subject, for example, you are a user, you signed up for an application, you have full rights to see that application, then that's the content you need to see. That your rights need to know. I need to know my Facebook account. The moment I log in, I should know my account. I don't want to know others' account, so that is prohibited or restricted by Facebook. Similar way, here, the same payslip application example. My name is Ismail. My company gave me access to my salary slip or payslip via portal. Somehow I get to see my colleague's Karthik payslip, which is completely wrong because I shouldn't need to know someone else who is Karthik payslip. But in example 2, my company gave me access to my salary slip, but the portal, I could only see my payslip. That is what intended behavior, or that's the subject rights which I have. So need to know is something subject should know that information. If that subject able to access someone else or prohibited information, then access control is not in place clearly. So that creates problem. So need to know is a basic premise of access control. Access to a resource should only be granted to user who has legitimate need to know. Principle of least privilege is one of the security concept. In access control, principle of least privilege must be followed. What it says, let's start with a story. There was a bank. Bank has a locker in a room. That locker is in this diagram, which I just prepared for this call. The diagram, you could see the matrix is a locker, multiple doors with a key. In that locker room, there is a tube light that got repaired or not working. Now, bank invited electrician to fix this problem. Bank had given access to the door, the main door, to that electrician. Now, the electrician got the access to the main door. Bank also granted access to all the lockers with the key, which electrician doesn't require at all. He just come to fix the tube light, but he got access to the lockers. Now, imagine this situation. The user got overprivileged. User can misuse or can make fraud, or security can be broken. Because worst case, if an electrician accesses this locker, he may get access to valuables or jewels. Whatever stored in the locker can be taken. The same example applicable in real-time enterprises where, we need to give right level of access or minimum access to do the regular task. If any user access other than what they need, then it may lead to a problem. So least privilege is the concept that user should only have access to the resource that they need in order to their job, but not more than that. In real time, how it will get applied? For example, you have a help desk user who used to reset the employee's password whenever they are unable to log into their mail account. When there is an employee reported, I couldn't access email, the help desk employee helped them to reset the password over phone and help them to reset the password so that they can access the email. Now this help desk employee only need privilege to reset the password, not more than that. The employee of the help desk shouldn't create account, shouldn't delete account, because the privilege what they need only to reset the password. That help desk employee doesn't have access to delete or create another user. So that permission clearly configured in the access control list. So that's where the principle of least privilege is important. It's everywhere applicable. Whenever we grant access, we should think what level of access that user is required to do their job. So the primary objective of this principal least privilege, we shouldn't give additional access or more access when user requesting for that particular resource access. In information technology world, the access are access control through email access or any specific web application access, or even office premises access. Only employee has access to building A, building B, no need to give access because building B doesn't have their department, or no point, the employee should go to building B. So the level of door access all maintained with least privilege principle. They only give access whatever access the employee need to do their work. That's all. Hope these concepts are...
Come on, take the chat. It's easy, simple question. Siva is a security administrator setting up access for a new employee who works in the manufacturing department. Siva makes sure to enable employees access the manufacturing area but not for the parts of storage area. What best describes the principle Siva is applying? All right. We all responded with the right answer, which is least privilege. We'll take the first three items. Need to know is not applicable because need to know is a right for the subject. 2% rule is not applicable here. 2% rule will cover in later in detail what is 2% rule. Then principle of authentication is not applicable here. So the answer is least privilege. Siva should give minimum privilege to that manufacturing area users so that they can only access manufacturing area unit. They cannot access storage area. Now go to next question. Which statement best describes the relationship between subject, object and rules? We spoke about subject and object but not rules, but you can easily figure out among these four which one could be the right answer. All right. So, which statement best describes the relationship between subject, object, and rules? First one, a subject grants access to an object based on rules. Subject never grants. Subject is always requested. Subject is a user or a computer request the access. Second one, an object is granted access to a subject based on rules. Object is a target. Object never apply any rules because, for example, if I access SQL database. The SQL database is the target. That is the object. Object is granted access to a subject. That will never happen. Third one, a subject is granted access to an object based on rules. This is possibly right because subject is all right. I could see some interruption. The third one, a subject is granted access to an object based on rules. Yeah, this is possibly a right answer. And the fourth one, an object is granted access to a subject based on credentials. No, because object is the target, object never validate the credential for the subject. So the right answer is a subject is granted access to an object based on rules. Subject is requesting access. Object based on rules, it may allow or block or give read write access based on rules. So answer is third. All right, next we'll talk about segregation of duties or separation of duties. Why we need to do this control? Segregation or separation, when you write a code, when you are the developer, when you test the code, you are the tester. When you publish the code, you are the publisher. When you do all these three things for a weekend hobby project, all good because it's not going to impact anything. But when it comes to enterprise, there should be a process, right? You cannot go and write code on your own, test on your own test cases, publish on your own. If you do that, fraud will happen, error may happen. The fraud in terms of financially, fraud will happen. So the code and test scenario, fraud will not happen. I will give the fraud example. Whenever you visit a bank branch in person, you might have noticed there are some process implemented in the bank. The cashier or teller cannot give the money without someone's approval. For example, you try to withdraw some money, you have written a manual request form, maybe still there, but most of them nowadays using other mode of transaction. But still, if you visit a bank and try to withdraw some money, you fill a form and signature your account number, then give that form to the maybe the cashier or teller. The teller send that form to another person, which is maybe the branch supervisor or manager. They validate and they give some verification approval. Then the cashier will issue the money. So here what's happening? You just went to the bank and the cashier just to give you money is a one-person transaction. But here what actually happening? The process includes two guys. So both of them should agree, mutually agree. Yes, you are the authentic account owner. You are here to get the money from your account. You are the right person, approved, and cashier disperse the money. Now, here what will not happen? The fraud will not happen, because the chances of getting fraud, if you compromise one person, like just a cashier, you just familiar with the cashier, then high chances if cashier like to withdraw someone's money, fraud may happen. But here two people involved, so without mutual, two people collide and together they make a fraud, then only the fraud will happen. That chances is very less. So that's where two people involved in the duties. So this is called segregation of duties and separation of duties. The same applicable for developing critical web applications. For example, take news, everyday news web pages. When journalists post a news, that go to editor make the post, then it go to proofreading. Once proofreading is done, then only it will go to publishing. In this process, if editor made or biased or put one type of information that go under proofreading, they would pick the mistakes, then publishing. So here multiple process involved. So one person cannot make a complete mistake. So if there is a mistake, 3 to 4 people made together, then only the error will happen. In cybersecurity, there are roles where you can't implement a change on your own. For example, you need to implement a firewall change. Okay, in firewall, let's say you need to allow specific public IP address with port number 443. The junior analyst or a network engineer prepare a change implementation plan. That plan sent to another reviewer within the team. That guy may be senior person in the team. That guy review. He will review the business requirement. Then he will review the change what wrote in the code or implementation plan, how to implement the change to allow that public IP. Once reviewer confirmed, yes, this is the intended change we need to make, then it will go to change implementation that get done during specific window. So here, sorry about that. In this process, when two people, let's say one change reviewer and change implementer, or the people who wrote the code, that's being sent to multiple people, different team altogether, then implement the change. Now what will happen? The error may not happen or fraud will not happen. The word collude and collusion joined together may come in questions or exams. Excuse me. You need to understand collusion or collude means join together. So if they join together and make the mistake, then only the mistake will happen. Then both the guys are accountable. The junior who wrote the code, the reviewer who approved the code, both are responsible for the mistake they made. So separation of duties, you need to understand that concept clearly. Now come to 2% rule. 2% rule, for example, if any person to access any important storage area, the 2% should approve. For example, the first door opened by person 1, second door opened by person 2. This 2% rule is applicable only highly sensitive area. For example, some critical data stored in a room which has storage, database servers or physical servers located. Single person cannot enter with the single key. The 2% called for the access. Whoever going to access that room, they need to request access with the justification why they need to go to that room and access. The 2% should come and open the door for you. For example, first person came and opened the door. The first door only opened by the person 1. The second person come and give the access to the second door access. Then only you can enter into the room. So here what we are making in terms of security, if there is a problem or some violation happened in that room, for example, one of the database server missing, someone took the server. Without these two guys support, that incident cannot happen, because it's a 2% rule implemented. Without these two guys awareness and cooperation, they cannot take the server out. That is called the 2% rule. You might have seen this in data center and highly sensitive data centers, like storing highly sensitive data. Maybe it could be banking information or highly protected data or classified data for nations, nation security data. Those type of data might have enforced with the 2% rule. So both a person given with unique keys, without both a person involvement, you cannot open the door. Now, storage. This storage is not just Google Drive or OneDrive. Storing password or any highly sensitive information, how to store. For example, in enterprises or you are an administrator, you need to store multiple passwords. Maybe it could be your SQL password, router switches user ID password, or any security services or any other solutions like antivirus, root password, or disk encryption master key and password. Multiple components involved with user ID and password. If you write down all the user ID and password, keep it in a notebook, that is a risky for the company. If someone took the notebook, entire access can be stolen. So to store the passwords, there are ways. You can use password vault. For example, 1Password, Let's Encrypt. Many companies offering passwords, password vault, which is called a password vault. There are first authentication you need to perform, then only you can retrieve the user ID and password. That is one way. There are traditional ways. For example, people may write down the AWS or Azure or any cloud-based or any other password in a notebook. Keep that notebook in the locker as a emergency access. They keep that root administrator credentials in the physical notebook and keep it in the locker, physical locker, so that no one can access. If there is a need to access, the right person granted access to the locker, they take the notebook and they go and access the respective account. Because for example, when you buy any new account, let's say you purchase Amazon AWS tenant, they give you super administrator user ID and password. You are the core administrator. You have rights to make any changes on your tenant because you have high privilege. Now you have sales department or marketing department or HR department. You need to give different access inside your AWS tenant. So you need to keep that master password, the root password initially given by Amazon, in a safe way. You can use password vault or physically write down the user ID and password, keep it in the physical locker. This is how we need to safely store the password. This could be one of the question, how to store your super administrator password. Do you write it in notepad or do you save it in an Excel sheet and keep it in your desktop, or take a sticky note and write down user ID and password, keep it in under the desk? Kind of questions you may expect, but the right answer would be using password vault applications or physical locker to protect the credentials. Now time to take chat and respond for this question. Priya has to log into many systems on a daily basis and has too many passwords to remember. What is the best way for Priya to manage her passwords? Write the password down on a piece of paper, store the password in a text file and store it in a safe place. Use the same password to every system so that he only has to remember one password. Use a password manager or password vault software. So it's an easy question. Take a chat and respond. Guys, come on. Am I audible? All right, it's a simple question, right? So use password manager or password vault software to store the password, too many password as an administrator. Next, we'll talk about identity, authentication, authorization, and accountability. In domain 1, we have seen this topic with Gmail access. To access Gmail as a user, I am the subject. Gmail is the object. The moment I put the username in password is the authentication. Gmail send me the code through SMS or Gmail application on my mobile phone, which is authentication type, one of the multi-factor authentication. Once authentication is successful, I authorized to access my Gmail inbox and my transaction. The moment I logged in, Muhammad Ismail logged in at 7:41 p.m. IST on 30th August, logged in the logs. So IEEE, I just explained with the simple example, Gmail. Just accessing Gmail or any application, the moment you access, identification, who you are, what is your user ID, which means you are the subject. Who is the subject? Subject is the username. Authentication, validate against type of authentication company implemented. In Gmail, we have user ID, password, and MFA, but in companies, the company will implement own authentication method. The company may implement 5.2 MFA or passwordless authentication, or they use your mobile phone to send a code and always OTP. Nowadays, some of the applications always send you OTP, not even asking password. The moment you put user ID, OTP is sent to your mobile phone. You need to enter the OTP to get into the application. So whatever method they are doing, IEEE is implemented. Identification, authentication, authorization, accountability. In authentication type, we have three methods. What you know, what you have, what you are. What you know is user ID, password. What you have is you may have maybe the MFA or mobile phone or whatever MFA options. What you are is biometric. It could be your fingerprint, palm, or iris scanner, or your face recognition. Whatever biometric fall under what you are. What you have is physical kind of a ATM card or MFA through mobile applications, or any token kind of authentication. You need a physical token that will give you random number that you need to enter while authentication. So authentication types. So IEEE is one of the method to implement logical access controls. Now talk about identity and access management. Identity and access management can be implemented through three types: centralized, decentralized, and hybrid. Centralized, imagine there is a private company, they operate business in India, Europe, and America, three regions. Now all these three regions, they have around 1,500 employees across the globe. These 1,500 employees should be managed in access control policy. For example, who need to access company email or not, or who has access to company payroll system, or who has access to customer relationship software like SAP or Salesforce or any other business tools. These 1,500 employees cannot given access to all the applications based on their role, their department, where they are located. These all constraints considered and given access. To manage centrally, they need central software. In this software could be Microsoft Active Directory or Microsoft Entra ID or Okta kind of application can be used to implement centralized identity and access management system. If there is a new employee joined in that company, the day one, HR will request respective identity and access management team to onboard that user into the centralized managed system. They do provision the user with necessary access based on the team or department that new hired employee is joining. For example, newly hired they hired a HR. The HR need to access mailbox and few other software like Naukri or LinkedIn or company's payroll system. These are the HR department application. The moment HR logged into the system, the necessary application access granted. So centrally managed. We just need user, who the user, what the department user is joining, the respective provisioning taken care by identity and access management team centrally. Now, what is decentralized mean? The same company operate business across the globe, 1,500 employees across the globe, India, America, and Europe. Now, each country, they have their own identity and access management, or each department have their own access control policy. If an employee joined in HR, HR will provide the access, what are the application they need. They will not grant other department access, or they cannot. Like they work individually on the department, which is decentralized, because they are managing here and there. India team manage India's privilege control, like whatever user joining HR team, they only give the access. Whenever user join US company, US location, the US team will manage the access locally. Now the problem is, centrally they cannot manage. If an employee joins, they cannot give access to all the applications centrally. They will lose some capabilities, but decentralized is maybe the traditional or old way, but centralized is the latest method or more effective, because when employee join or when employee separated or resigned from the company, the access can be revoked quickly if centrally managed. If centrally managed, also we can monitor whenever employee is joining, whatever application employee is accessing, that can be tracked and monitored centrally. Company has full visibility who is accessing what application. Hybrid, they can use both centralized as well as decentralized. For example, email, they use centralized access policy. For small applications, for example, locally they developed some local application for weather control or Bangalore traffic management, or some application gives local healthcare connectivity for health insurance. Those applications are local to the region. Maybe the health insurance application only located for India or Bangalore based employees. Employees in US, they have different application. So they use both a method. They use for email, they use centralized authentication or identity access management through Okta or Entra AD or Azure directory. For healthcare and other applications, whatever applications locally used, they use local authentication method. Maybe they simply create plain user ID and password. Whoever based on Bangalore or India location, they grant access to that healthcare application, which is decentralized. Now, as an employee, I have access to both centralized identity and access management as well as locally hosted access management. That is called hybrid. IAM life cycle is, this is very simple life cycle, basic method. Whenever employee is joining, we need to provision. We need to provision whatever application that employee needed to do the day-to-day work. Take same example, there is an employee joined in HR team. Now the employee need to access payroll application or mailbox, right? That needs to be provisioned on day one so that the newly joined employee can complete the day-to-day task or onboarding process smoothly. Now, review, whenever access granted, the reviews are periodically happen. Like, is the user rightly using or abusing the access, or is the user wrongfully using, or user got over access or extra privilege that user is violating in identity and access management. That is called review. Revocation happened if there is a mistake or a termination or properly employee resigned in the company. The moment user leaving the company, all the access must be revoked. We have seen in real time, there are many incidents happened due to revocation mistake. People who left the company still have access to the company's mailbox or any other application. That would pose more risk, because The employee resigned and properly relieved from the company, but still they could access the company resource, which means the company data is going out to the resigned employee personal device. We have seen in the past multiple companies suffered with this revocation. This is one of the primary control. The moment user or employee stepped out from the company premises after resignation or termination, immediately all the access must be revoked. That is under revocation policy. So these three work together and maintain and strengthen the identity and access management. My dear learners, in this group, more are from students community. Students, you need to understand identity and access management is a separate department in every company. They manage a dedicated department with minimum 4 or 5 employees in 2,000 3,000 employees companies like the length or size of the company. 4 or 5 people they hire for identity and access management. If you like to start your career in identity and access management, you can practice Azure Entra ID. I think the course number is SC300. SC hyphen 300 is the exam Azure is offering. Entire training is free by Azure. Only the exam you need to pay, I think $100 or something to get the exam and get the certification. If you hold that certificate, you may easily get the job in identity and access management. Like whenever employee joining, onboarding the employee, whenever employee is leaving, you need to remove the employee from the Azure Entra ID and managing the access controls for authentication. That's the day-to-day work. But it is one of the security domain. So you are into cybersecurity or you can go towards cybersecurity. But that's one field you can focus on, which is called IAM. If you go to LinkedIn and search IAM engineer role or IAM as a designation in many people, you will see IAM engineer for Azure, IAM engineer for Okta or Ping Identity, kind of a name you can see. Those people are managing the company's identity and access management, because this is, I can say, this is heart of the company. If identity and access management is compromised, the entire company get compromised easily, because this is where they are managing the entire access control. For example, if there is a hacker intruded into your Azure AD or Azure Entra AD, created multiple user ID and password and mapped that account with various application access, then easily the company can be compromised. So they would highly strengthen the identity and access management, which cannot be compromised, which must be followed all the rules and regulations, so that this can stand in any of the theft attempt or prevent most of the cyber security attacks. Now come to privilege creep. I like to talk about this word. I put it on the corner. Privilege creep is something over the period. For example, the same company, the company has business across the globe, US, Europe, and India. 1,500 employees are working. There was one employee joined in maybe 15 years ago as a sales engineer. Okay. After first 4 years, he moved to another role, which is account manager. Then later, after maybe 4 or 5 years, he moved to some director role. He joined as a sales engineer, then moved to account manager. Now he is a director. He transitioned in the company 3 different roles, 3 different identity and access management profile or access granted. The moment he was in sales, he got access to some of the application. The moment he moved to account manager role, he got access to additional applications. The moment he moved to director, some of the additional applications given to him for accessing for day-to-day work. Now, what happens? He has access to more applications than what he need for day-to-day task as a director. As a director, he may hardly need 3-4 applications, but he got 20 plus applications. Give me a sec. I think I'm having challenge with the recording. I couldn't see a problem with the recording. It's going on.
No, it's not.
Sir. Yes, sir. It's going on.
All right. So the privilege creep, or the reason I'm talking, this could be a potential candidate for exam. Privilege creep happens when a single employee joined in multiple roles. He got more access than what he needed for the day-to-day task. Now what happens? As a director, he's not required to access multiple applications. He got 20 plus application extra, but still he has access to. Now, this is called a privilege creep. He moved to multiple role. He got additional access over the period in the company. Now, to fix this privilege creep, every role change, they need to review the access and control policy. When a guy promoted to another role, he need to lose the existing access control and the new rules to be given to that role according to the new role. Only the limited access given to according to that specific role. This is called a privilege creep. The privilege creep happens only if employee changed multiple roles within the same company. So we have a question for that as well. We'll see. So in this example, Kamachi has been an employee for Acme Corporation for 20 years. During that time, she has been able to access more and more systems. Now she has to system that she doesn't even need access to in order to do her job. This is an example of what type of situation. So yeah, obviously the answer is privilege creep. The reason I'm pushing this privilege creep, I want to make sure this terminology is stored in your muscle memory. So whenever you see privilege creep, you should understand what is privilege creep. People stayed on the company more longer time and they gained the access over the time that lead to this privilege creep situation. All right. Now there are accounts tagged as privileged accounts. Let's say, take an example. There is a Windows server. You know, Windows server is a multi-session supported device. What does that mean? Single Windows server, 100 people can take remote access or more than that. You know, multiple people can take or multiple people can access single physical Windows server over the period. Now, these 100 or more than 100 users are called normal users. Users take remote and they do their task and close the system. They are normal users, but there is a user called domain administrator or local administrator who has more privilege. He can touch the BIOS or operating system or kernel level configuration. Even domain administrator can install any software. The moment you install a software on a server, that privilege to be given. You are the administrator. You need to enter user ID and password so that you are as an administrator, you can install any software. But users may not be able to install the software. That is called normal account and domain administrator and local administrators. So whatever account which has high privilege, then normal user account fall under privileged accounts. Domain administrator, local administrator, super user, emergency accounts, special user accounts, privileged system accounts. These accounts, if you have noticed, these accounts are created or exist for a specific reason. So what are the reasons? We'll see from here. These accounts are created for specific purpose. What purpose the domain administrator get created? He can manage the domain controller or entire domain space. The super user on the Linux can manage entire Linux operating system, patching, updating, or modifying, or granting others access to the system for specific purpose. Right now, these specific purpose accounts reviewed in greater frequency. For example, every week someone should audit the access level. The privileged accounts are used properly in a purposeful way. If any mistakes or any over usage happens or seen, that needs to be revoked or reported. That way, the privileged accounts are monitored and controlled. Automated services and programs shouldn't use privileged accounts. Simple. you shouldn't run batch script or any automation tool using super administrator account. What will happen if there is a loop in the program, if there is automation, gone into a wrong hand or a hacker compromised, they easily decode the administrator account. Then they are the owner for the company and the system. Once administrator control given to the hacker, the entire company is hacker's company. They can take whatever data they want. Because administrator privilege allow them to create multiple users, multiple permissions they can change, that can be impact the entire company. The privileged accounts should be managed and separately from regular accounts. If even I am an administrator, I shouldn't use my administrator high privileged account to my regular task. I should use my user account. So user account is given with the specific permissions based on my role. If I am a HR or if I am an IT person, I have access to the system normally as a normal user. Whenever I need to install software or install operating system, or whenever I do high privileged task, then I need to use the privileged account. So the privileged account separately maintained, and it shouldn't be used for regular purpose. Then there is a term called just-in-time access. What does that mean, just-in-time access? Just-in-time will provide temporary access. For an example, there is a manufacturing plant. They manufacture, let's say, maybe they use a factory to manufacture mobile phones. That factory connected to a smart device, which is a Windows server. Now there is a problem happened on that manufacturing unit. That respective vendor called for the repairing work. For example, the company bought equipments from Philips. Now Philips employees visiting the factory to fix the problem that equipment is having. The Philips employee is a temporary third-party employee to fix the problem. That Philips employee should given in-time access or just in-time access for, let's say, 90 minutes. He can only do the 90 minutes task to repair the manufacturing unit, and the access must be revoked after that time period. How it will save the company? For example, I have granted full access for entire lifetime. That Philips employee, whenever visit the company, he can use the device, right? But when you give 90 minutes, after the 90 minutes, the user cannot use the credential to log in, or the just-in-time access get auto revoked. That is called just-in-time access. So in real time, you might have seen this in some of the airport or railway station. The Wi-Fi granted access for you 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, automatically Wi-Fi disconnects. This is also called just-in-time access, because you are authenticated, you have given 30 minutes Wi-Fi access to do some task. After 30 minutes, the Wi-Fi auto disconnected. That is also applicable in just-in-time, various applications, but just-in-time access is given privilege or permission within time-bound activity. If you are a third-party serviceman, you need access to only 90 minutes to fix the problem. Only 90 minutes granted. If it is 120 minutes, they give 120 minutes in the policy. After 120th minute, the access get revoked. So if they try access after 125 minute, 125th, then no longer able to access. Perform monitoring and logging in all PAM activity. PAM is privileged access management. Whenever the high privileged account is used, automatically the monitoring is enabled. Whatever you are doing, that get tracked and monitored. For example, you have granted access to that same third-party service guy from Philips. Now, the guy, whatever he did that with that privileged account within that 120 minutes, everything is logged. He went to my folder, he went to command line, he executed this code, that all get recorded for reference, because what people are doing with the high privileged account must be recorded and audited in case if it is needed for further analysis. We need to all right, everyone, I'm back. So let's continue. So best practice for privileged accounts. the account must be specific purpose. The review must be in greater frequency, maybe weekly or bi-weekly, quarterly, that account must be reviewed. Automated service and programs shouldn't be used with the high privileged accounts, basically automation scripts or any of the, nowadays people use AI agent, which is primarily automation, that shouldn't be used with the highly privileged accounts. Just-in-time access given based on the scenarios. If any third-party contractor or visitor who need privilege access based on the task, then just-in-time access should be given. Monitoring all the PAM activities mandatory. Now come to logical access control. Logical or technical access control, both are same. Logical access control or technical access control is the primary type under access control. Logical access control always connected to network resources, computers, laptop or mobile devices, or any software or applications. Because when you take logical access control, this involved with user ID, password, or any type of authentication, then the subject granted access upon successful authentication, that is fall under access control. Next, access control models. As a cybersecurity professional, you must aware what is discretionary access control, mandatory access control, and role-based access control. By the way, these are not new concept or new elements, but everyday life we are using these controls in our day-to-day life. For example, take a discretionary access control. Discretionary access control used in our Windows PC, Mac or Linux PC, as well as Google document. When you create a document, you are the document owner. When you are sharing that document with your colleagues or students or classmates, you are giving access to them, read or write based on the privilege you are assigning. You are the data owner. You are the owner assigning that rights to the others. So DSC provides the owner of the resource. You are the owner of the Google Doc. Typically, the creator, the full control to configure which subject, your user or your colleagues or your friends or your classmates can access the object. The object is here your document, the Google Doc, which you have created. This allows user ability to, discretion to make decisions such as what permission other users or groups of users have over the object. Here we need to understand that subject, object, and the permission, who is giving the permission. Subject is the user, you or your friend or your colleague or your classmates, anyone who is going to access the object, which is Google document. As you are the owner of the document as a subject, you can grant or revoke the permission anytime. No one centrally managing or no one is overlooking what you are doing with that document. This is called a DAC. You may expect questions from various form, but the concept is same. As a data owner, you have full privilege to allow or block or restrict anyone from accessing that particular Google document, which is object here. In Windows and Linux, how it works? In Windows, if you right click and see the permission for any file, or Linux, if you do ls-l command, you will see the privilege for that file. Is that permission granted to everyone or only the permission granted to you or everyone? That is where if you have created any file, for example, you have created a single video file in Windows, you can restrict that file can be accessed by other users on the same system, or you only going to access the file. Same applicable for Linux. In Linux operating system, when you made a file, you can create a permission, other users can access the file or not. This is called DAC. So based on Data owner can set the permission whether others can access or not. That fully managed by the data owner. You are the data owner when you make a file. Now come to mandatory access control, MAC. MAC is slightly different. The moment you create a file, that file get a label. The label is primarily, this is US standard, public, confidential, secret, top secret. One of the label get added to the document as a classification. For example, you have created a document. The document classified as, let's say, top secret. In the centralized access control policy, they put a rule. Whoever has access to top secret, only the specific set of users have access to top secret files. Let's say now you create second file, which is public. Now public is accessible by anyone, but the top secret file classified as top secret file only accessed by respective group of users. This is centrally managed. The file and the classification centrally managed. This MAC, mandatory access control, you cannot see in normal companies, but this mostly seen in government agencies, because when military or airspace or any other government agencies, when they create a file, they put a classification on the top. This is public, this is confidential, this is secret or top secret. If that label seen by the respective tool or software, that only grant access to respective set of people. If it is public, everyone can access. If it is top secret, only people who has access to the top secret, only those people can access the file. This is called mandatory access control. You may expect questions like when mandatory access control can be used, or mandatory access control, who is controlling the mandatory access control? Because here data owner doesn't have any rights. Data owner, the guy who is creating the document, cannot control the access control for who is going to access my file or not. Only the data owner may be given control. He can add a label. This is public file, this is secret, this is top secret. He cannot maintain my friend can access, my friend cannot access. That cannot be defined by the data owner. Data owner doesn't have any control in mandatory access control. But if you go back to the previous one, DAC, data owner or subject, has full authority. He can invite his friend or colleague or anyone to access the file. But in mandatory access control, this cannot be done. Mandatory access control mostly implemented in highly secure, highly sensitive environment like military or army or the company who is managing those assets, kind of a highly secure environment. Now come to RBAC, which is called role-based access control. We need to go back to an example for explaining role-based access control. There is a company, they operate business across the globe, India, Europe, and America, 1,500 employees working across the globe. They have 3 primary departments: HR department, sales department, marketing department. HR department, they need to access email and payroll application. Sales department, they need to access email and CRM tool. Marketing need to access email and Canva. Among these 3 teams, email is the common application. Now, email can be given access to all the employees in the company. 1,500 employees can access email services. They go to Gmail, they use their company domain, they can log into the mailbox, or they go to Outlook and they use company mail ID to get the email access. Simple, access granted to everyone. Now come to the second row, the payroll, CRM, Canva, based on the department that employee is part of. When user joined the company, they label, let's say Siva is joining today as to HR department. Siva tagged as Siva is the user. He joined HR department, payroll application access granted. Now, there is another guy, Karthik. He joined the sales team. Now, Karthik granted access with email and CRM application. So, Karthik can only access email and CRM application. Karthik cannot access payroll application. Same way, Siva cannot access CRM application because Siva from HR team, Karthik from sales team. Here, what we are exactly mapping is a role, the user role. User role used as an attribute in the access control policy. That's how role-based access plays. If that role has access to the respective document or respective application access, they can access. Otherwise, they cannot access. Individually, they cannot assign the application. At the time of onboarding, at the time of joining process itself, the application list of applications granted to the users get added. This is called role-based access control. There is a concept called attribute-based access control, ABAC. ABAC uses multiple other attributes. For example, user location, geolocation. If user comes from India public IP, grant India applications. If user comes from US public IP, grant US application. The IP is an attribute and country is an attribute. Like that, we can use multiple other attributes such as if user has Mac device, if user has Windows application, if user comes from mobile phone, if personal mobile phone, those attributes can be used in ABAC, which is big one, but for exam, you just need to focus on these three. What these three models? DAC, MAC, and RBAC. You must understand these three. In case the explanation what I have provided is not enough or not sufficient, feel free to research on this topic. You will see more number of videos and explanation from the web pages. You feel free to understand better so that you can tackle any scenario questions if they give you, you can answer. But these three topics you must aware. This is also one of the core topic in this domain. Now come to account types. When accounts get created, user accounts, administrator accounts, guest account, shared or generic accounts, service accounts can be created. User accounts is a normal account with common privileges. Every user can access email or every user can access company web pages or respective user can log in with the laptop. Those all fall under user accounts. Administrator accounts, only administrator might have access. Not every employee have administrator access. Only in IT team, maybe 4 or 5 people have access to administrator accounts. Each department, if they need administrator account, they may get administrator accounts, but not everyone get the administrator accounts. Next, guest accounts. Whenever people visit or whenever there is no user authentication is needed, they may create some guest account without password. They just type user ID and they granted access. Or temporary accounts get created for guest. It's a time-bound account. After XYZ day or 8 hours, the account get deleted. Generic shared accounts used for a team. Across a team, they use shared account for some common task. Then service accounts primarily used in automation, API, and scripts. So service accounts used in automation. If there is a every day midnight 12 o'clock, my server needs to reboot. To reboot, you need administrator. They create service account with reboot privilege and keep it in the script. So every day midnight, that script executed and the server get rebooted. So service accounts used in the automation and scripts. So these account types you should aware. If there is a question about what purpose service account is used, you should be able to answer. Now come to physical access control. Let me quickly check the time. We are running shortage. Maybe I may extend the time. Today's call maybe 15 more minutes. I need to cover a few more slides. Physical access control is talking about physical security. Why we need a lock in our home or house? we need to protect our house from theft, right? So we are keeping a lock or a CCTV camera. These all are physical controls. Same goes to company. If you are running a big company, you need to protect your company from outsiders, right? So to implement security, we have multiple controls. In cyber security, why I am talking about physical security or door lock or CCTV camera, because these all fall under core cyber security domain. That's the primary reason I used to tell everyone that if you participate in multiple capture the flag event or ethical hacking, you will not understand the core of the cyber security. The core of the cyber security is protecting your business from any type of threats and dangers. So one of the threat is, if your company doors are opened, anyone can come and go, then anyone can take anything and go. No accountability, no protection. But physical access control defined in proper way in this domain or developed by ISC2 to prevent physical theft or physical fraud, controlling physical access. The three core things: perimeter and entrance protection, facility access, environmental design and considerations. These three things you should know. So the first one about perimeter and entrance protection. You might have seen these 4 items in every company's entrance: bollards, fencing and walls, revolving doors and turnstile, and man trap. You might have seen these 4 items, mostly these 4 involved in the entrance. Every company, if you visit any company or airport or metro station or any industry area, you might have seen these 4 items. Any one must be deployed for protection. So the first one is fence. You see fence, why we are using, maybe you might have seen this in outside airport. The fence is a physical barrier, will protect outsiders entering into your company premises. Maybe here airport is the company, maybe tomorrow you may have deployed as a security engineer in or security officer in big MNC. They have big real estate, they need to protect. Then fencing is one of the physical barrier control. Then the revolving door, it acts as a control, because this door is not a normal door. This might have a lock or a trap inside. If someone is entered inside your company and took something and run away, the security personnel has rights to stop the door or lock the door within that revolving door itself. So that can act as a entrance protection. You might have seen this type of doors in 5-star hotel entrance or some of the company's entrance. Have seen in Europe, many places it's common. So if you have seen this door, you remember this is one of the entrance protection they have implemented or deployed. Then the right side, you might have seen this silver pillar kind of things, right? This is called a bollard. This bollard can be made in hard material like concrete or pillars to protect from the vehicle accident. If your company located roadside, you have threat. If someone drive a car fast or drive a truck very fast towards your company or office premises, they can damage your system or people, right? To solve that, they keep this type of pillars in the entrance. These pillars protect the threats, kind of speedy vehicle or a truck or roadside accidents can be prevented. Have seen in metro stations in India across the nation. So many places have seen this has been implemented. You might have seen this in some of the company entrance as well. The turnstile is the right side one, that you need to put the ID code or the badge reader, then it will open, then you can enter. This is also common in metro station. You need to drop the ticket or tap the ticket pass, the turnstile will move, then you can enter or exit. So these all are used in the protection. So now the key learning here is you need to know the name or terminology. What is bollard? Bollard is the hard material. It could be a pillar kind of a material used to protect from the vehicles. Fencing is a physical barrier. Revolving door is an entrance door with the trap. They can lock. If someone take and run away, it has control to stop the door, and it can trap the people or the people who are stealing something. Man trap is something like this. For a security project, like if you are working or if you are deployed in a banking project, banking backend operation where account information or sensitive data are maintained, they deploy this type of man trap door. The first door you need to open, then you need to pass the access again to the second door, then the second door will open. Second door only open when the first door get closed. So that's the logic. If someone is tailgating or following you, they cannot enter with your access. That's the primary secure control here. For example, you have opened the first door from the bottom. You enter into that man trap door. Now, once the door get closed, you are in the small room. Now you need to tap the access again on the inside door. Then the door will open. Then you can go inside. This is called man trap. If anyone followed you, you will notice in the room itself. So that's how we can prevent man trap. I mean, tailgating, or if anyone following with your access, that can be prevented. This you can see this type of doors very common in IT services companies such as HCL or Wipro or Infosys. Whenever you visit highly sensitive banking project, they might have implemented this man trap door. The access control enabled on the both the doors. First you need to enter into the first door, then you need to tap the access, then you can enter into the working area. So now facility access. Now we talked about entrance and door, the physical entrance, how we can protect. Then facility start with a security guard. There is a reception, 2 to 3 security guards always there. Then you need to show the photo ID card or a badge. There is a note you need to sign in what time you are entering or what time you are exiting from the office building. That is called a sign-in sheet. Then badge system, we have multiple varieties of badge system: barcode, magnetic stripe, proximity card, smart card, RFID. Each method might have some pros and cons. For example, barcode can be easily manipulated or duplicated. Someone can create a barcode like your card, so someone else can enter as you. So impersonation is possible. So barcode is not secure. Magnetic stripe, if you put magnet, it may erase the data, or someone can modify with magnetic force. So magnetic stripe is not that secure. Proximity card may be secure, but you need to carry the card nearby the door so that the door will open. Smart card may have a chip or processor inside the card. That is something advanced that cannot be manipulated. Smart card is one of the most secure one. Then RFID, you might have seen all the toll gates now enabled with RFID enabled vehicles. So the RFID in the long distance can detect and allow the vehicles in the toll gates, right? So those methods are used in the door access as well. So when the moment you have this card in your pocket, you are granted to access. You have that RFID in your mobile through application. The moment you take your mobile towards the door get open. Otherwise others cannot enter. So those are basic door access controls. Then biometrics is common: iris, palm, or your face recognition, voice pattern recognition, all used in the biometric technology. These are the technology used to grant physical facility access. It's a building or a data center or any secure room. You need to identify who you are, what you have, or who you are. Like biometric, if you have a PIN or a password, sometime you need to enter PIN as well. In a secure data center, maybe dual authentication enabled, you need to enter the PIN, then you need to tap your ID card or a badge, then only the door will open for a data center. But for normal entrance, you might need to showcase the ID card and badge to open the secure door to access the facility. Now, security personnel and security protocol. Here I like to talk about two terminology: two-person integrity, two-person control. Two-person integrity is there are location, two-person integrity is always come into facility. You remember, two-person integrity tied to facility. We have seen two-person rule in past, like a few slides back we have seen two-person rule, like first person approve the change, second person also need to approve, then only we can implement. That is two-person rule. Two-person integrity, what does that mean? You have access to a specific building or a room. The two security guards should validate and allow you. You can fool first security guard, but somehow you cannot fool the second guy, right? That is human tendency. If you are doing some social engineering or something to compromise the first security guard, the second security guard will catch you. So the fraud rate would be very, zero or near zero when you use two-person integrity. But two-person integrity only used in the facilities, like office premises or office specific location where some sensitive or highly value data stored. That's where two-person integrity is used. The reason I'm recalling two-person integrity, you can imagine a question like, we have a highly secured crown jewel data in a specific room. We implemented two security guards. First security guard validate, then second security guard validate, both together grant the access, then only you can get access to that room. That is called a two-person integrity. If they ask what type of security measure implemented here, which is called two-person integrity. Two-person control is, for example, you might have seen in nuclear bomb trigger videos. The first person need to give the key, then second person also need to give the key, then only they can trigger the nuclear bomb. Similarly, in enterprises, there are tasks that single-handedly cannot be done, but two persons need to join together, then only they can implement or do the task. That is called a two-person control. So you might have expect a two-person integrity or two-person control related questions. So you should know this terminology. Do not limit your knowledge. Go and research what is two-person integrity, what is two-person control. You will get more idea. So more contents available outside. So now let's take the question. Bharat is responsible for physical security for a facility that stores backup tapes containing sensitive information. He is implementing new policy that requires that no employee access the facility alone, and that any access requires presence of at least two authorized employees. Which term best describes this policy? So two-person rule, two-person control, or two-person restriction, or two-person integrity. So yeah, here we are talking about facility, the word facility in the question. So two-person integrity is the correct answer. So we'll quickly move on. So environmental design consideration, when you build a company building or when you build a respective factory or enterprises, whenever come to business in focus, or if you take airport or any public infrastructure, crime prevention through environmental design in place. What does that mean? CPTED means crime prevention through environmental design. I have seen many places in India, like if you visit any famous temples in South, you might have seen there is a specific way for entrance. Once you entered into the temple, you can only exit through some other exit. You cannot enter into the same way. Similarly, in business or any public facing infrastructure, like if you go to any malls or any hypermarket, specific entrance for enter into that store, you need to exit to other side, or they put a clear guideline. This is how you need to enter, this is how you need to exit. The reason behind, they use that building itself to prevent crime. Crime prevention through environmental design. I mean, the building itself act as a prevention against the crime. So natural access control is one, physical access in such a way that guides people where you want them to go and prevent them going where they don't want them to go. For example, you might never face any problem in any shopping mall, which side I need to enter, which side I need to exit. Or if you go to any hypermarket, you won't get confused, which direction you need to enter, which direction you need to exit. You go and add items into the cart, you are checking out, paying the bill, and come out through exit direction, right? So you don't get confused which direction you need to enter, or you never end up entering into wrong room. So the design itself, they add naturally the control. The surveillance, for example, natural surveillance means using natural resources like light, or in even daylight, a transparent building, so that no crime will happen. If the place is transparent, everyone outside seeing what is happening inside, no crime will happen. That is called natural surveillance. In example, applying more number of lights in the park, so the entire park is bright and no one do any crime, right? Similarly, in enterprises, adding more lights to the places, no dark places. Whenever you have CCTV, adequate light is there, so that natural surveillance, it automatically happens. You don't need to invest on additional security measure. Building by design, surveillance by applying lights and necessary glasses or a transparent way, so that no crime or fraud will happen. So because people all around, the people are watching what is happening. If anyone trying to break or trying to steal something or do inappropriate activity, that can be prevented by naturally, like using light or respective transparent glass, so others could see and act and report. Then territorial reinforcement, the design of the building exterior to provide visual cues and the help distinguish public and private areas. So here is what the transparency or using transparent glass would help in terms of reinforcing respective controls. If it is a private place, you will close that completely. If it is a public place, you open with the transparent glass. Let's say you have a cafeteria or common public place, you can apply side walls as transparent glass, so everyone see what's happening inside that common area. But if you have a critical data center where you cannot show what is inside, then you need to cover the entire room, right? So you cannot place transparent glass there. So that's called territorial reinforcement using by design. So next we have a quiz. Which of the following is not a goal of the crime prevention through environmental design philosophy? We have seen surveillance, access control, territorial reinforcement, but one piece is missing, which is not, is the question. So all right, others could see still 23 participants on this call. Take your chat and confirm. So natural detection is the answer. Yeah, it's not in the previous slide. If you have seen, we have natural access control, natural surveillance, territorial reinforcement is not there. So the detection is not there. That's what, which of the following is not a goal. So when you read exam question, pay attention to the word not. If it is a not, you need to inverse. So natural detection is the answer. Then monitoring physical access is important. Security guards and physical access logs, which is entry, exit, note or the logins. Security cameras act as a deterrent control. If anyone trying to do some fraud, the moment they see CCTV camera is there, they will not do, right? That act as a deterrent control. They discourage outsiders to do some activity. If there is a CCTV board on there, CCTV is installed, that notice would help, and CCTV also act as a physical control. Monitoring and alarm system. So monitoring using various new technologies, like after 11 p.m. if no one should access the respective secure area, then you can detect the human detectors. If any human activity, that automatically alert people entering into that wrong area. That's being used in banks and various high secure places, but monitoring and alarm systems would help. Now come to the conclusion. But this time I end up with one of the implementation I'm just working on. I like to inform you guys about the practice question module which I have developed for you, which is the domain is called quiz.learncybersec.in. You go to this website and use the code exam456 is the login code. You can use that code to enter into the practice mode or real exam. Currently 60 questions loaded, so you can practice 60 questions in each of the domain, but in case in future I may add more questions. So give me a second, I'm having challenge with this MS Team widget. So I'm repeating the code. Also, I'm going to type it here, which is exam, EXAM, exam 456 is the code. You just begin practice test. You have two mode, practice mode and exam simulation. Practice mode, we have 6 domains: security principle, incident response, business continuity and disaster recovery, access controls, network security and security operations. So far we have seen security principles, incident response, business continuity. Today we have seen access control. Last 2 domains will cover it in the next couple of sessions, but you can start your practice questions. But as I said, it's limited, just only loaded 10 questions on each domain, total 60 questions loaded. So just practice and get used to it. I know how the exam going to be. My intention is to load few more questions. I'm trying to match same as similar exam, so that you guys get feel of how the exam looks like. So once you enter exam code here, exam 456, if you go to start exam simulation, the timer will start. So you will see the timer will start. That is what if you need to practice. Actually, my intention is you need to experience. This is how the exam going to be. Am I able to answer and read the questions within 1.2 minutes and selecting the right answer among 4 options? That you just practice. Over the period, I will add more difficult questions. The problem is I need to take time and think through it and create the scenario. Then I will update the engine. But probably within next couple of weeks, I will try to load at least 100 questions so that you will get familiar with the exam within the time stamp. So within this 2 hours, you need to answer 100 questions. All right, let me, I will send an email with the details how to access this engine. Also, I will try to provide other engines which is available outside my network. Maybe some created really good exam engines exist, maybe with 30 questions or 20 questions. So you guys go and practice those as well. So as we already reached more than 50% of the curriculum, you are more comfortable to take the questions and repeat yourself. Maybe post 3 weeks, if you try to give the exam, that would help. So with that, I conclude this session. Thank you very much, 22 great people on Saturday attending this session. I really appreciated your time. So with that, we'll conclude. We'll see you on next Saturday. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.